Okay. Thanks, Jeremy. The meeting is starting at 6:31, and this is the Bronx Community Board 11 Housing Committee meeting. But before we start, I just wanted to take a quick, brief minute just to think about the people that we lost in that horrific fire. So we can just do that real quick. Okay, thank you for that. We also had a fire recently in the Van Nest area where a couple of other families were relocated because of that. So it's just horrible for them. I don't even know what else to say. I live in a high rise, and I'm always terrified that people are not going to do what they're supposed to do. I know people panic, and it's it's at that moment you're really just thinking about saving your own life. But whenever you're in a fire and you're running out of the apartment, always close the door because that does make a big difference. Um, anyway, so I want to just first welcome Richard Reynoso, who is now my co-chair. So I want to thank you for accepting that position. And Mr. Malcolm Gray and Miss Juanita Randall, who joined my committee. And there's oh, hi, Juanita.
Hi, Hazel. Thank you.
So for the first time in I think a long time, I actually have a quorum. Um, so one of the first things that we're going to do is hopefully you guys went on the web and reviewed our May, June, and December minutes. And I would just like to take the opportunity to make a motion to accept them.
Second,
Who seconded that?
Richard.
Okay, Richard, thank you. Do we have any questions regarding them? Any abstentions? Anybody disagree with them? Okay, so they're passed. Thank you very much for that. Since COVID hit us hard, the whole city kind of shut down there for a while. And one of the things that shut down was housing court. And there's been a moratorium on eviction since last year, and that moratorium is about to expire on June 15th. We have not heard of any extension, so I really think that it's going to go through this time. And what the moratorium did was um, it stopped all evictions except for nuisance evictions, which are called holdovers. And that's when you have a tenant that just making it so impossible for everybody in the building, or they've got some kind of an illegal activity going on in the apartment, or for some other nuisance reason, or they're making the neighbors crazy. Those were really the only evictions that were taking place, and I'm not even sure how many did take place. But as far as non-payments, they were all put on hold. Now, the landlords were able to file paperwork, but as far as it going to hearing, that wasn't happening. So right now, what's going to happen is all those cases are going to come up. And I called Housing Court Answers to see if I can get any update on exactly how court was going to proceed. But they basically told me that it's going to proceed the same way that it's been proceeding, which is you get paperwork, you call up, and and back then, before now, your court case gets adjourned. But that's not how it's going to happen now. You're going to be able to actually go ahead with your case. So I just wanted to share what the paperwork looks like in case anybody gets it. So this is your typical court papers. I blocked out the name of the client that we have, and it's a court notice. And what you'll see on that is an index number. And here it'll tell you exactly how to get on so that you can talk to the court attorney and either get an adjournment or get your case heard. Sometimes the Microsoft Team meeting does not work for some strange reason. So when we've done it with our clients, we've had to call. And what'll happen is you'll talk to the court attorney, you'll hear what you have to say, and they normally just give you a date. So in this case, this was a holdover, but this also got adjourned. Because it really should have been a non-payment because the client was behind in their rent, but somehow the landlord turned it into a holdover. And then here it tells you, it's virtual. And if it wasn't virtual, this part here would have told you exactly when your court date was and what time you were supposed to show up to court. And then this just gives you information on who you can contact. The city council passed a right to counsel law a couple of years ago. So everybody that's low income or falls below a certain income is entitled to an attorney. Now, if you've ever been to housing court, you know that almost every single landlord has an attorney. And that's usually who you speak to when you go there. A lot of tenants don't have attorneys. Legal aid was so backed up and they don't, it's impossible for them to take every single case. But thank goodness that the city council passed this law and they were able to get more money. And now there's more attorneys that can actually assist tenants. So this page just gives you all the information where you can call for assistance. Now, in the chat, I put some information on how to reach Housing Court Answers. Housing Court Answers is a nonprofit, and they're the ones that have all this information for tenants. And if you're not coming to my office, where we actually also assist tenants, you can call them, and this is for tenants and for landlords. And they'll help you answer whatever questions you have. They have a table set up in Housing Court, and if you've ever been there, you on your way to the elevator, they're like on the left side, and they have pamphlets in different languages that explains exactly what cases are, because you have non-payments, you have holdovers, and then you have what's called an HB action, where you actually take your landlord to court for whatever repairs are needed in your apartment that are not being addressed. And then we, on January 3rd, homeowners were able to apply for funding if they're behind in their mortgages or whatever, payments, loans, water bills. And I put the actual website where you can go and get more information. If you come to our office, we will be able to assist you with the application. just like the tenants had the ERAP, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, this is kind of the same thing, but it's for the landlord. And in a way, I'm kind of hoping that they don't extend the eviction, only because there are so many landlords out there that are really, really struggling, especially our smaller, homeowners that have those, 2, 3, and 4 unit buildings. They're really suffering to pay all their bills. Even though there's been a moratorium or foreclosures, they still have other bills to pay in order to maintain the property. So those are the two links that I put up there. So hopefully, somebody that can benefit from that. Please, by all means, give them that information. So a tenant that gets any paperwork should either call our office here at NIDC, or you can call Housing Court Answers, and we will be more than happy to assist you in any way. We also assist landlords, and not just tenants. So we do assist landlords. So if you know anybody that has any questions or going through anything, please, I will put I'll put my information in here too. Oh, there we go. I'm sorry, I forgot to get it. So does anybody have any questions regarding housing court? Anything else that you want me to talk about regarding court? No?
Say again? Say again?
Do you have any questions? Any questions for me regarding any, housing court or any other housing issues?
Hi,
Um,
can the gallery ask questions?
yeah, sure.
Okay. What do you do if you get a threatening letter from your landlord or your landlord's lawyer? And it's not a letter from the housing court, but it's from your landlord or your landlord's lawyer.
Okay, well, before they can even take you to court, they have to send you a rent demand. And that's usually a notice that says, hey, you owe me money. If you don't pay me by a certain amount, of time, or by, next Tuesday or whatever, we're going to start court proceedings against you. That's the very first thing that the landlord has to do before he can take you to court. And sometimes it's in the form of a 10-day notice, a 15-day notice, or a 30-day notice. And but once you get something like that in the mail, you kind of already know that he's going to be processing your case for court. Is that the kind of letter that you're talking about?
Yeah, but you don't have to do anything until the court contacts you. Is that
Right.
right?
You don't really. It's just because sometimes, it's the rent demand is a chance for the tenant and the landlord to get together and say, hey, you just sent me this letter that says I owe you $2,000, and I don't really owe you that. And so you're able to call the office and say, hey, what's going on? Sometimes, you may make a payment, they may not get the payment, they may process the payment in somebody else's account, something got lost in the mail, maybe the check bounced, especially now that the mail is like snail mail. They may not always get the mail, or sometimes, they get it and they don't do anything with it because, maybe they want to get you out of the building, but, that's really not the way to go. But I have seen that done. So if you want to call them, you can call them and say, hey, I just received this, but, what's going on? Can we make a deal so we don't have to go to court? And sometimes they'll do that for you because, you know, they don't want to go to court either. They just want their money. But it's like a chance where you can actually, you know, call them up and see if anything can be arranged. And maybe you don't owe the money, you know, maybe their records are wrong. But if you can't resolve the issue, you know that that's where you're going. You're heading that way. Now with COVID, you know, we were telling everybody to fill out the hardship declaration. And that declaration just says, you know, it just states that you either lost your income because you lost your job or your company closed down or whatever. And you were able to send that into housing court so that when your court case does come up, you know, they have that on file. But you should also keep a copy and take that with you. So did that answer your question, Diane?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions? Nobody has a question?
Oh, what was the thing you just mentioned about hardship? What was the name of the paperwork, please?
It's a hardship declaration. And if you go onto Housing Court Answers, I think they have a link there where you can actually go out and fill it out.
I'm sorry. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Is this the meeting for the to stop the men's shelter on White Plains Road?
Okay, we're gonna talk about that a little later.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Now, you know, when you do get to court, you know, that doesn't, getting court papers does not mean that you're gonna get evicted. Housing court, you know, does work with you. You know, the judges will work with you, the judge's attorney will work with you. And you'll come, you know, you go to court and you let them know what's going on. Some people are just behind because they've either had an emergency or like, you know, everybody that suffered from COVID, some people have lost their jobs. And then you go and you tell them, you know, why it is that, you know, you haven't been paying your back rent, and you sign a stipulation. A stipulation is an agreement between you and the landlord saying, you know, I'm going to do this and I'll pay you by this date, and hopefully, you know, everything works out. A lot of times it takes a couple of months before, you know, like tenants sometimes have to go and get a one-shot deal to get that back rent paid. The courts will work with you because they don't really want anybody to lose their apartment, and they don't want to make somebody homeless. So they'll give you enough time for you to do what it is that you have to do. But you're the one that really has to go out there and get whatever help, you know, you need. And so you can call us here and we'll be able to assist you. We do one-shot deals here. We filled out about 30 or 40 emergency rent assistance applications. One of our tenants was behind $17,000 because her rent was pretty high, and we were able to get all that money paid for her. So there is hope. You know, it's not a hopeless situation just because you feel that, you know, you haven't paid, you know, rent in 2 months. There are ways that you can get that back rent paid, and the court will work with you. So I don't want anybody to think that, you know, they're going to get thrown out in the street. And the landlord cannot evict you unless he does take you to court. So that's another thing that people worry about. Oh my God, I'm behind my rent. I'm going to get thrown out in the street. Landlords can't do that. That's an illegal lockout and an illegal eviction, and they can actually get into a lot of trouble for them.
I have a question.
Sure.
What's required to get the one-shot deal?
You have to be behind in your rent, but you also have to show that you're able to pay future rent. And there's a whole bunch of documentation that you have to provide. And then you just fill out the application, and it's a lengthy process. So if you think that you want to apply for the one-shot deal, you should do it as quickly as possible. Sometimes you have to pay the loan back, and sometimes you don't, depending on your circumstances and your income.
Depending on financial circumstances.
Right, both.
Mm. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. I have a staff person who does, one-shot deals, so she knows all the ins and outs. So if you need to call her, her name is Elizabeth Vega, and she's at extension 200, which I put in the chat. All right. Oh, you got some questions. How is there a number I can call to dispute an MCI rent freeze? MCI's kind of changed a little bit since 2019, but if you think that, I'm not exactly sure what the MCI was for, but if you feel that the MCI increase was for something that wasn't done, an MCI, for those that don't know, is an increase that the landlord may be, well, he puts it in and for, it's called the major capital improvement, and it's either for a new roof, a new elevator, a new boiler, pointing, and anything that's done to the building itself. It's a major capital improvement. But sometimes tenants feel that, if they put in a new elevator and it breaks down in 2 weeks, that's an issue that, it shouldn't be breaking down within 2 weeks of it being, refurbished or whatever. And you can dispute them. If you call my office, I'll be able to help you with that. And it all depends on whatever the improvement was. MCI fees were for renovations made to the outside of the building. MCIs were like an add-on to the rent that was going to be added on forever. In 2019, I don't have the information in front of me. It was, the laws were changed, so the MCI is not going to last as long. And now it's limited to the number of units in the building. But if you give me a call tomorrow, I'm sorry, I don't have the information. I don't want to stop what I'm doing to get it from the computer because I'm not sure what it is. But if you give me a call tomorrow, I'm at extension 210. I'll be able to give you all the new information regarding the MCIs and the individual apartment increases. Oh, okay. Let me put my number. Anybody else? Yeah, I believe it used to be 140th. I think it's changed. So, maybe at next month's here, meeting, I can give you a breakdown of all the new, rent laws. So I don't want to take up time doing that right now because I know a lot of you want to talk about other things. So if we don't have any more questions about housing court, I'm going to open up the gallery.
Hi Hazel, it's Roxanne from Prince Palm Parkway. Is it possible for you to discuss first about the homeless shelter and then open the floor to questions and comments, please?
Okay. Okay, so, in October, we got a letter from the Deputy Commissioner of Intergovernmental and Legislative Affairs that they were proposing 140 single adult shelter at 2028 White Plains Road. 2028 White Plains Road, for those of you who don't know, is where the old bingo used to be. We have been discussing this, and we actually have a public hearing coming up on February 3rd, where we have DHS coming to make a presentation. We're going to have the Housing Committee meeting first, and then I believe at 7:30 is when the public hearing is going to start. And we pushed it to 7:30 because a lot of the residents of the community are going to be available then. And we wanted to make sure that everybody that this shelter is affecting would be able to attend that public hearing.
I have a question. So you say that the Community Board 11 became aware of this proposal in October 2021?
Yes.
So has there been any communication between the board and this person that sent the letter, regarding moving this shelter somewhere else? Or any objection at all to it being placed in this location?
Oh, there's been objection. Yes. This is why, so we kind of were hoping that with the new administration, this is a de Blasio plan for all these shelters, especially we've got like 4 of them proposed in our area. And we have been fighting all of these. It's not like we haven't been doing anything. We have not just been sitting around saying, oh, okay. No, we have been back and forth with these people, telling them, no, you cannot put all these shelters in our area. It's ridiculous. So we were hoping and discussing that with the new administration, that these shelters may not actually go through, because it's not something that was on the new mayor's agenda. But we felt that we had to have this meeting anyway, because we need to let these people know this is ridiculous. You're not putting the shelter in, So that's why we planned this public hearing.
Yes.
We're hoping, hold on a minute. Hold on. We were hoping to be able to have it in person, but I don't think, policy may prevent that from happening. So we're still not sure. This is why we haven't put it out onto the public yet, because we're still not sure how we're going to have the meeting. The city's policy is to have virtual meetings, and kind of the community boards also. So that hasn't changed yet. And I think I heard something where Albany is trying to push to continue with the virtual meeting. So don't hold me, that's just a rumor, so I don't really know, but I'm just letting you know we might have to have it virtual.
But does that matter?
Did you mean the February 3rd meeting will be virtual?
Physical?
I'm
That
sorry,
the
wait.
community is made aware of this
Well,
proposal?
I personally like to have meetings in person because, first of all, they get the sense of how many people are really against this, even though you might have a screen full of, blank boxes. It's so much better to be able to stand there and let these people know, face to face, that this is not something that the community wants and that we're going to fight for it not to happen. That's not to say that, having it virtual may not have the same impact, but it's in my opinion, and what I would prefer is always a face-to-face meeting. So it doesn't, it's apple and oranges.
But that wasn't my question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My question was why hasn't the affected community or the affected communities been made aware that this is even on the table? I only found out yesterday.
Oh, but the information has been out there. As far as I know, the information has been out there. I don't know why you just found out about it.
But where is it? How is it, how is the community made aware?
It was brought up in past meetings,
Manifestation.
past community board meetings, and so I'm not exactly sure why people don't know about it.
I know why they don't know about it, because they should have received the letter by mail at least, minimum.
I don't know who is this speaking. I'm sorry.
Yes, my name is Mother, and I'm saying that everybody would have been aware had they received at least a letter by mail minimum. We could have did something about it then. Now it's getting too close to the deadline. And now I want to know, what do we do now? Who do we speak to so we can all gather together and stop this from happening? Because it seems like nobody knows what's going to happen next. But we need somebody in charge of this.
Well, this is why we're having the public hearing. They would not meet with us in January. They were the ones that were pushing it to February. If it had been up to me, I would have met last month. But they're the ones, and I'm not going to have a public hearing or any kind of meeting if DHS is not going to be there, because then what's the point? We need to have them in the same room or in the same computer, whatever, in order for them to know exactly how we feel about this. So we were trying to set up this meeting. We've been trying to set it up. They're the ones that have been pushing back.
Hello.
So
My
they
name
finally
is-
agreed to have, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Jeanette Wilson. I'm the board president of Brady Court. And I just want to piggyback what another guest voiced. Until a day ago, we are 295 families here at Brady Court. And until a day ago, we were not aware that this was happening. Now, everything that I've ever experienced has told me that if the people that are being affected do not know about it, they do not have an opportunity to rally and have their voices heard. So that is a concern. I do not routinely attend this meeting, this Community Board 11 meeting, and maybe I should. So that is something that I will change moving forward. But had a flyer not been posted in our buildings, I would not be aware that this was happening. Our families here would not be aware that this was happening. We have an elementary school bordering us. We have a high school bordering us. We have a park 2 blocks away. This is very concerning. It would directly impact a community that has already been seriously impacted by the pandemic. We have businesses that have closed. We have businesses that are going to have to move away. This is something that is huge, and we should have, I do believe there should have been more communication and transparency. I also know that we as a co-op, we are going to start a petition and get signatures. We are going to be proactive because we do not want this to be a done deal. So if anyone on this meeting would like to join us and partner with us in these petitions, you can contact, my name is Jeanette Wilson, and you can contact me at bradycoopboard@gmail.com. We are also doing a food giveaway tomorrow from our community center located on Holland and Anton. We have been trying to deal with the food insecurities here at the Bronx. So the board will be out there tomorrow distributing food at 2 p.m. and we will start the petitions at that time.
Hi, Hi, I'm sorry. Could you repeat your email address, please?
It is Brady, BRADY, co-op board
Co-op.
at gmail.com. I'll try to put it in the chat for you. I am not the most technology savvy, but I'm going to do my best. To put it in.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure I'm clear. It's Brady Co-op Board at gmail.com, correct?
Correct.
Great, thank you.
You are welcome.
And I also have a question. So, hello?
Yeah, let me just answer. So I'm really sorry that I'm going to take responsibility because this is my committee, and you know this issue has come up in meetings before this one, and I'm really sorry that more of the community was not aware. This is why it's so important for everyone to attend these meetings. You know, if the community board is really the place to get all the information that's happening within your community. And you know, we always encourage, you know, everybody to attend because this is where the information is distributed. But I will try and do better. I will try and get all of the information out as soon as we get it. But I don't want you to think that we've just been sitting on them because we haven't. We have been fighting back. And if something like this comes up again, I am going to reach out to you guys more because it helps when we, you know, it helps when we have more people on our side and not just me or Jeremy or you know, Al or any of my other committee members just talking about this and, you know, screaming at these people that they can't do this. So I'm going to take full responsibility for not getting the information out there the way it should have. I apologize to those of you that just found out about this, but believe me, this has been discussed in the past few months. Since October, we've been talking about this. And this is not the only shelter that we're dealing with. We're also dealing with the Popular and the ones on Bronxdale and everything. So it's not like, and like I said, it's not like we're just sitting around not doing anything.
Hi, I have a question. So you said you guys have discussed it. Have you discussed it in past board meeting minutes that maybe some of us on this call have not joined? For instance, the December board meeting or the November board meeting, considering the letter came out in October?
If you go onto the Bronx Community Board 11 website, you can see all of the past minutes. So I'm
Post it now
pretty
in
sure
the
you'll
chat
be
now.
able to find that information in there.
I'll put it in the chat now.
Okay, so you can't answer now. You want me to go to the minutes? Got it. Okay.
Hi, Hazel. This is Roxanne. I just wanted to clarify something because, yes, this board has held meetings on the other shelter, but they never held any specific meeting on this White Plains Road shelter. And this is the first time that this shelter is put on your agenda on the housing committee or any meeting, including the full board. Perhaps you have mentioned casually privately with other board members or maybe, but it was never any discussion about this White Plains Road site. I have been to many of your meetings. I have all the agenda. I was at your meeting last month where I criticized how the board did not notify the community about this shelter. And then it was put on this month's housing agenda, but it's not really a meeting. It's just mentioning what's being done. But first, also, is there a written objection to this homeless site? Because there's no documentation that 2411 sent a letter of objection to the site.
Hold on a
Then we
minute.
certainly would have been in the know.
Somebody, can you guys mute yourselves, please?
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Hazel. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'll make it really short. Again, Hazel, it was the staff duty to have forwarded this letter of notification of DHS regarding the White Plains Road shelter to the community, and also even posted on the papers as they did the Stillwell shelter. But also, no meeting has ever been held on this issue on White Plains Road Shelter. This is the first time this is being discussed in a public meeting in Community Board 11. And is there a written objection to the specific location written by the Community Board? And can I get a copy of this?
Okay, I have to find out whether anything in writing went out. I'm probably gonna say no, because they haven't said anything to me about it, but it could, they could have sent it without letting me know. So Roxanne, I will definitely get back to you on that. And like I said, I apologize if you guys didn't know about this, and that's gonna be on me, because I should have really let everybody know. But as
Hello,
far as I
Hazel.
know, this is, hold on a minute. This is not the first time that we've discussed this. And the reason why we haven't had a meeting on it is because DHS, like I said, they were pushing back on us, and they finally agreed to have this meeting in February.
Okay, thank you, Hazel. But if the letter was sent to Jeremy, the district manager, he should at least have forwarded to the people via email while waiting for the DHS to commit to some meeting. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Hi, Hazel. It's John Duran. How do you do?
Good, how are you?
I'd like to steer the discussion towards possible solutions to the problem. I agree that it would have been great if we had all heard about this sooner, but now that we're in the middle of it, what can we do to solve the problem? I have spoken to Jeanette Wilson, the president of Brady Court, where I also live, and we think that it might be better to change this, assuming we cannot stop a shelter being put into that location at all. Perhaps we could change it from a single men's shelter into a family shelter, which might mitigate the impact of a homeless community in our neighborhood. How do you feel about that?
John, this is one thing that we've always brought up to them. Why does it strictly have to be a men's shelter? There are plenty of families out there that are homeless. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. And we've given them recommendations for other properties on other sites. And it's like their way or no way. This is why we have to push back. This is one reason why I wanted to have the public hearing tonight. They would not do it. This is why I put it on the agenda. This is why I'm bringing it up now, because we need everybody everybody to show up at this public hearing in February, because they need to know that this is not acceptable. We're not going to tolerate this anymore. Every time they want to put a shelter, they want to put it in our neighborhood. So I agree with you. You're 100% right.
Will Bronx News or Bronx 12 or any news outlet be at the meeting, as far as you know? Have they been invited?
We're going to be inviting them, yes. Whether they show up, that's up to them. But we have, Robert, would you be able to do an article on this?
Yes, excuse me, I'm with several news outlets. You may know me from the Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez debate I moderated, and I do write for several news outlets. I am covering this story, and I have experience from another community board also on a matter like this. And unfortunately, I wanted to hear other people. If anyone else wants to speak first, I would like to hear from them, and then I'll give you the answer, what can be done. So I'm going to mute myself and try and listen to other people.
Okay, thanks, Robert.
I have a question. So I have a couple of questions. So first, can the flyer that was posted be
I'm
shared?
sorry, can everybody mute themselves, please? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so since
And who are you? Who is this?
this is Dale Miller.
Hi, Dale.
Hi. So since many of us haven't seen this flyer, can it be shared with us in the chat here? And um,
I'm sorry, which flyer are you talking about? For
the
the
one that was
upcoming meeting?
posted on Pelham Parkway?
I don't think that was part of this community board. I think that was a separate entity.
Okay. So, um, so how soon can, media outlets be made aware of this meeting? Is a date set?
The date is set, for February 3rd. But like I said, we don't know yet whether we're gonna have a virtual meeting or an in-person meeting, which is why it hasn't been announced yet. We will hopefully know that within, probably next week.
And
Aside from
communities-
setting this meeting, I apologize, aside from setting this meeting, is your committee doing anything else?
Well, this is why I brought it up at this meeting, because I want as many people as possible to know that this is happening. If you want, I can put up flyers in the neighborhood that this is going on, but I really want to get the word out to as many people as possible, because if we do have this meeting in person, I want that room with 200 bodies in there and everybody screaming at the same time. This is not going to happen in our neighborhood. And even if we have it virtual, I want the screen lit up with all these boxes of people that are totally against this shelter and every other shelter that they're proposing in our area.
Hi again, this is John Duran again. Would you be able to produce flyers with somewhere where we can get petitions on flyers so that we can produce those also at the meeting if it happens to be a live meeting? Or we can get a signature count as well as, if it's just a virtual meeting, if we could have a signature count against this instead of having 200 people in a room. Can you produce those flyers for us?
Well, but Jeanette said that she was going to do a petition. So maybe we can piggyback with her.
Absolutely.
Hello, my name is Chris. I'm in the Pelham Parkway neighborhood. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I just have a question. I'm just curious. What are some of the other locations that you said were proposed to have men's shelter in the area? You said this wasn't the first time that they gave pushback on other shelters going up in the area. I'm just curious of some of the other locations that they're proposing other shelters.
Robert, do you by any chance have those addresses at hand? Because I don't have them in front of me.
No, I don't have it in front of me either. It's the one on
Yeah.
Stillwell and then Pompum and the one on the original one where the first 200 on Blondell. This one is a surprise to everybody.
Were there any
Um,
Bronx locations chosen where people pushed back and were successful in not having the shelters built?
Well, there was a shelter, if I'm not mistaken, the one on Stillwell, they wanted to put one on Stillwell. I'm so sorry. I didn't come prepared with those other addresses. I'm so sorry. But we did push back on that, and we believe that that's a dead issue now. We did push back on it. On Dale?
Oh, sorry. I'll recall that last year there was a proposed shelter on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and their community board, along with residents, were very active and managed to get it moved. So maybe it would be helpful to reach out to the community board there to learn which one it was and reach out to them to learn what strategy they deployed so that, maybe it's something that we can duplicate here.
Do you remember what community board it was?
No, I don't know which community
Okay.
board it was. I'm sorry.
All right, I can look into that.
Yeah, we can look into that.
I'm sorry, I'm just texting somebody to see if they can get me those addresses. Anybody else?
So hi Hazel, it's Juanita. So
Hi.
what I'm thinking is that numbers matter. So I know I hear a lot of people that live in the neighborhood are there, and numbers definitely matter. So the more people that we can get for February 3rd, I'm sure, our voices will be heard.
Mhm. Well, I'm hoping that everybody that's here today
And
comes
someone
and
spreads
brings at least
correct.
5 other people. So, Roxanne was kind enough to put up some of the addresses. So it was 1400 Blondell. That was for 200 men. 2443 Poplar. That's another 200. And now this one at 2028 White Plains Road.
Have any of them been successfully fought against?
Here it is. 1682. Where'd it go? 1682 Stillwell. And the 1400 Blondell. I think those are dead issues because
They don't win.
we fought back on those for sure. How are you going to put 2 shelters on the same street? That doesn't make any sense.
I have a question regarding February 3rd. Since it has not been decided whether it's going to be in person or virtual yet, when will it be decided and how will that be communicated? Facebook, email?
We're going to.
Because the last thing we need is for it to be public and then no one knows about it, and then due to a pandemic, if it's virtual, but then nobody knows about the call and no one can dial in and you just have 3 people. So
Right.
I just want to know, when will it be decided and how will it be communicated?
Like I said before, I'm hoping that by the end of next week, we will know. Because the community board has to have virtual meetings now. That's just the way it is. That came from Albany.
Gotcha.
And that's
So-
supposed to, wait, hold on. That's supposed to be, it was only up to, I believe, the 15th or the 14th of this month. So we don't know if that's going to be extended, because now we've got this other, form of COVID going around and everybody's getting sick. So we still don't know if that's going to be extended or not.
Gotcha. And when you do know, how will it be communicated? Whether regardless of location, how will we know a call or in person?
Yeah, we have social media. We have a Facebook page. And so I will make sure that it goes up on Facebook and any other social media I can get my hands on. If you guys want, I can make flyers and put them in the neighborhood. If you guys send me your email addresses, I will be able to email you. I don't have anybody's email address, and I know you guys may not want to put it in the chat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my email address, and then you can email me your address, and I will make sure.
Okay. May I have your email?
Yeah, I'm writing it in now. Just give me a minute.
Uh-huh.
I'm not very tech savvy, so you have to give me a minute.
Well, I think I dialed in, so I won't see it in a chat. But if you verbalize it, I can.
Oh,
I can get
okay.
it that way.
So I'm sorry. Well, let me put it in the chat anyway. Hold on 1 minute.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't click a WebLex. I just dialed the 646 number.
Okay. So it's HMIURA at nidcny.org.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hazel,
Somebody was trying to speak.
are there any more community people who want to speak? I'll wait.
I wanted to say something, if that's okay.
You are?
Hi, my name is Jocelyn. I'm a parent of two kids that go to the elementary school that's right there. I also volunteer in the school. I'm president of the parent association. So I actually plan on announcing what's going on our next meeting. So any information that I can give to the parents would be amazing because like everybody else said, nobody knows about this. So I'm sure once, I give the parents the information and dates and stuff, you can get more parents at the February meeting that's gonna happen.
Okay, so why don't you send me an email? I think everybody should send me their email addresses, and I will be able to email you as much information as I possibly can or that I have. How's that?
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Hazel, just in case the emails don't all get a reply, is there an office that we can go visit you at or call so we can, stay on top of the topic and keep everybody
Well,
on it?
I work for a nonprofit organization with Neighborhood Initiatives Development Corporation. I'm the Director of Housing and Community Development, and we're located at 2160 Matthews Avenue. So if you want, I will put that in the chat.
Thank you, Hazel.
Can you repeat that again? 2160, what is it?
Matthews.
Thank you.
We're not in the building. We're actually by the ramp. We're on the outside of the building. It's the Crystal Building, if any of you live in the neighborhood long enough to know where that is.
Yes. Hi, Hazel. Roxanne again. Sorry, I just want to clarify. I know that the 6082 Stillwell was relocated to the Poplar location, but I was not aware that the Blondale shelter was no longer going through. Are you certain that Blondale has been?
Oh, you know what? Yeah, I may have read the wrong address. So don't hold me to it, because they were proposing another one on Blondell, and I think that's the one that was filled.
Yes, correct. All right, thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So are there any elected officials, any representatives from elected officials here? No? Do we have any other questions, comments?
Yes, Hazel, who can we reach out to that can help you get some power, that can help you gain some strength to stop this from happening? Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah. We need somebody that really help us.
Well, hopefully this new administration is going to be able to pull back on de Blasio's plan to put all these shelters in all these neighborhoods. We're not going to know that for a while because, the new mayor is getting his act together. So we do have liaisons to his office. But, we also have all of our elected officials, which this is why I was asking if any of them were here, because they're the ones that should be fighting right along with us. So if you want to really help, maybe you guys can start making some phone calls to them and put some fire under them to get involved in this.
Thank you, Hazel.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Yeah, Hazel, I just noticed that the DHS website has the meeting listed for February 3rd, but they have the wrong community board. They say it's community board 8 instead of 11. We're putting it in the chat.
Wait a minute, who just took over my screen?
Mikey Beverelli.
Yeah, Mike, can you give me my control back, please? Thank you. I don't know how that
So
happened.
sorry, I stepped away and my cat went onto the laptop. So I apologize for that.
That's okay. I have one of those too. Then we're gonna have to reach out to them, but they shouldn't have even put that up because we don't even know where how the meeting is gonna be held, so.
Yeah.
But I'll look into that, Diane. Thank you.
Hazel, if there's no one else who wants to speak, I'll give a little brief history on this. Community Board 10 had a responsibility of 787 homeless people. The mayor, as of when the no cash bail law went into effect, has said there is an extremely large amount of single adult homeless men on the street. They are no longer being able to be held in Rikers or in jails, and they have to be let go. And what's happened is a lot of these men have become homeless. And this is the reason for the homelessness, that the problem that the city is having. Now, as a borough, we have 37% of the homeless population. It goes back to the Bloomberg administration, where people from Manhattan, Brooklyn, and other boroughs were just sent up here to the Bronx because the Bronx had empty buildings and they were filled up. We have 18% of the city population, so it is not a fair share of the homeless population in the Bronx. We should be taking care of anywhere up to 20% of the homeless population, not 37%. That's one thing. The second thing is that the Department of Homeless Service had a program or a policy that no more than 25% of the responsibility of a community board could be single adult men, 25% single adult women, and then 50% family. This community board, most of the homeless, if not all of it, were family because they've lost their houses or apartments. This community board is not really a transient community, it's a family community. So that's the other problem, that why is this community board, if these 3 shelters go through, will have about 65% of its homeless population be single adult men, which is against fair share. That's what the board has to come up with. That's what we have to fight. Also, in these shelters, there was one built just recently on Westchester Avenue, across the street from Karina's Reyes' office, Assemblywoman Reyes. Up to 18 men were being put in a room with just a cot to sleep on and a little dresser behind the bed that they use. And most of these shelters, when it comes to morning, kick the men out and tell them to either go to work, which many of these men are working people. They've just lost their houses, their apartments or whatever. They've run on hard times because of COVID. But they're told to go, you have to leave the shelter in the morning, then you have to come back by 10 p.m. All right, not every shelter works that way, and the providers have to be looked at. There are different providers for different shelters. You don't have one provider covering every shelter. There are maybe hundreds of different providers. I believe this provider is a Yonkers group. I've looked a little bit up about them. They're from Yonkers. All right, they have shelters up in Yonkers and in New York City. You have to look at the backgrounds of the providers. So these 3 shelters have 3 different providers. The Blondell Avenue shelter, we cannot fight as a community board. That is within the 25%, 200 single adult men. That one you can't fight. You can fight the second one on Poplar Street and this one. But if you're going to fight it, you should say you want a family shelter, because you have the responsibility of 787, if not more, homeless people. It could be about 800 right now, as number one up in other community boards. But that's what I have to say. if you're going to try and fight it, you want a family shelter, not just single men, and use the fair share rule. And we'll be talking about probably in the future, before the meeting, or, we have a month till that meeting. So that's all I'm going to say. Anybody have any questions? I'll answer them.
Go ahead. Let's go.
Thank you, Robert, for that.
Hi, it's me, Sergio. Can I speak? Is that okay?
Oh, hi, Sergio. How are you?
Hi. Good. How are you? I just
I'm
very
good.
quickly, I just want to remind the community that the way that we speak about homeless men paints a very large picture about how we talk about men of color in general, because most homeless men in New York City are men of color. When we start to use language that vilifies vilifies these homeless men, right? Not having them around our children, oh, they're outside roaming around. It's the same narrative that's been used around Black and Latino men for as long as our country has been around, as men of color being predators. I just hope that we elevate the conversation, we elevate the discourse, and that we keep it to the facts. Many, if not most of these homeless men are actually fathers themselves. They may not be custodial fathers, but they are fathers. So just keep that in mind, because I feel like many times we talk about, oh, those homeless men. We're talking about Black and Latino men, and it's something that is pervasive in our culture that we need to get rid of, right? Most of us are not predators, and we shouldn't be speaking about each other in that way. That's just my comment. Thank you.
And to that extent, I do agree with Sergio. You know, the language that I think is used is kind of problematic. You know, is to me, it's assuming that something is going to happen. I personally feel like I would rather approach the meeting, asking questions to DHS, knowing, what are the qualifications of the people that will be placed in the shelter, and then, if it doesn't fit the qualifications that we want to see, then you transition to the family shelter. But I do think that, open-minded and a little bit, different towards the approach would be much more effective than just saying no, no, no. Because as he said, there are Black and Hispanic, men who are fathers, who are single. It doesn't necessarily mean that because a person is single doesn't mean they don't have a family or they're not a father, right? They're part of the fabric of our community, and they also deserve to be represented.
It's not that being a housing advocate and a tenant organizer for most of my career, it's not that we have anything against shelters, because I don't. I think that everybody, I hate the fact of even having to have shelters. I wish that there were, better laws that would keep people in their homes, and more services that would help people stay in their houses. But to put these shelters where they want to put them, that's the issue. You're putting these shelters in a residential area, next to schools, next to houses of worship, and next to stores. And, and I'm not saying that every single man, woman, or child that's put in a shelter is, problematic, because that's not true. Sometimes people do need, people fall on bad times and circumstances, because of circumstances, they end up homeless. But it's where they're putting them that's my issue.
I mean, I totally understand that point, but being poor or poverty in general isn't a crime. You know what I'm saying?
No, it's not.
It's not. And I don't think that DHS will put sexual offenders near schools, right? That's the concern. I remember in a previous board meeting, one housing meeting, that did come up at one point, and they said, yeah, they do thoroughly screen, and we do have access to such screenings if we need it. I mean, I still say, keep open mind towards that meeting on February 3rd, and to see, what can we possibly do. But I don't want to vilify being poor or homeless as being something that's not deserving of a home or a place in the community. People do fall on hard times. We're in a pandemic, and that also exacerbated the situation. I think we do need to be a little bit more open-minded and understanding, what's going on.
Yes, I think we do need to be mindful. You're absolutely right. JL, I'm sorry, you've had your hand up.
That's okay. I take note at what Sergio and Malcolm have said, and I agree. That we should not necessarily
Have the right.
stigmatize these homeless men. But I'll tell you, I'm walking on White Plains Road and Pelham Parkway, and the people that I see that are wandering around that are homeless are not working people. These are people with mental health issues. And while I'm relatively new to this area, um, I'm not aware that there are adequate mental health providers nor policing in the area to help people who may be confused or have other issues on the streets of our community. Also, drug use has gone up in this area. This is a working class area. And, some of the issues around identifying these people as men of color are related to or a direct result of structural issues that we certainly can't solve. And it doesn't seem that the city is making much effort to solve them either. So I guess the gist of my comment is that from what I've seen of the increase in homeless persons in our community, that it will be more of the same. People struggling with mental health issues or substance abuse issues, because that's who's in that's who's been in Rikers Island as homeless persons, not working class people, but people who have have comorbidities.
I would just like to say that I had a 40-year career where I worked with the homeless, with individuals in recovery, with individuals with mental health issues, with individuals who were incarcerated and with ex-offenders. And what repeatedly was frustrating was how structures and systems do not set those individuals up for success, and that 4 decades later, when I'm retired from my career, those systems are still not in place, as is evidenced by what was said by the gentleman who said of the release from Rikers. You release people with no plan in place and no structure in place to support that. I wish that I had the magic to change that, and I don't. But I certainly believe in setting people and communities up for success. I feel for the entire homeless population. I do think if we are going to have a shelter in this area, a family shelter makes more sense, because I can think of ways that even the Brady Court Community Center can support those efforts. I can think of ways the Everlasting Church can support those efforts. I think that forcing an issue to put 140 men on White Plains Road would not set those men up for success, because unfortunately, the exact way that the two gentlemen that spoke, many people will, that is what they're going to see, that is how they're going to react to those individuals. It would not be well for the community, and unfortunately, it would not bode well for the men who would be in the shelter. I think that we have to be realistic of what we can do and how we do it so that we can hopefully come up with something that makes sense holistically. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeanette. I totally agree. The system fails these people time and time again. And, you know.
Very quickly, what I find very ironic is how we're willing to say, okay, yeah, our community board, we already have a biased view about these men of color. They're beyond all help, but we'll take families. That to me is kind of a hard pill to swallow, to say that one group of people, these men are, we're going to view them in a certain particular way, yet we're willing to take women and children. That I have a problem with that. Not only is it sexist, but it's also it's saying that some of us in this community aren't willing to do the work and put in the effort in order to overcome our own personal biases or opinions or how we engage with these homeless men. I don't know. To me, it's underselling us as a district. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, Sergio, the thing is, hold on. The thing is, Sergio, that every shelter that they've proposed has been a men's shelter. It's okay if there's one men's shelter. There's a lot of families out there that also need, help. The 4 out of the 4 shelters, every single one of them has turned out to be a male shelter. It doesn't make sense to me. If you're going to be putting shelters in these communities, at least, make it a women's shelter, a family shelter, a men's shelter. They don't all have to be the same. It's not just men homeless
Right.
that need the help.
But it's not, it's not just homeless men who could be a problem in the community, right? It could be people in families or homeless women. They could be equally destructive in a community if they choose to be, right? But again,
You're absolutely right.
right. So, and especially with shelters, there are different types of shelters, right? There's not just shelters that people come from Rikers and they go shelters. There are different types. There are shelters, people who were evicted or who were victims of fires. There's different types of shelters, right? And I work with them personally myself. And, I do think that going into February 3rd, it would be very constructive to just, be willing to ask questions and to see what the criteria that's going to arrive for who's going to be qualified to be into those shelters. Because I really don't think that they're going to put sexual offenders or people who have histories of violent histories in those shelters near those schools.
Okay, well, who knows? Because I've had my own experience with shelters and people coming out of the shelter system. I mean, and people don't even want to go into the shelter system. So I guess I'm a little biased or a little prejudiced on that issue because I deal with people that are homeless and I hear stories about that. So, and I think we all have our different opinions and we're all entitled to our opinions, but you're absolutely right. I think we need to go into this meeting with a set plan, not just say, oh, we don't really want these types of people in this community. No, it's really not it's not about the people. It's about putting these shelters in where they want to place them. That's the only concern that I have. I didn't think that the Blondell was so bad because it's Blondell. It's not a residential area, even though you do have a couple of private houses on that block. I didn't think that was so bad because it's kind of industrial over there. But to put it next to, in a residential area, to me, that's a little concerning. And I have my own reasons for that. And I'm not, that doesn't, not your reason, it's my reason. But you're absolutely right. I think that we should go into this meeting, united front and have, and really put the pressure on them because even though they say that, they have all these programs and they're going to do this and they have social workers, how do we really know that that's what's going to happen? That's just them trying to make us feel better. There's always this clause that they're supposed to be good neighbors. How do we know that they're going to stick by that? So that's my only concern. If it's a shelter and they're going to be providing the services that these men need to get on their feet, to get employment, to be able to get a job, to be able to find a decent a home, then that's all fine. But what's their track record? You know, what are they coming with? That's really what concerns me.
Hi, excuse me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, yes. As a tenant that lives actually across from the bingo place, my concern is exactly what you just touched on right now, Hazel, is the equipment of equipping the neighborhood for something like that to come into the neighborhood. There are neighborhoods that already have experienced that, or maybe have shelters in the area where they know how everything runs and how everything is able to help the families and people that are in these shelters. But our neighborhood does not have that experience. We don't have those tools. So there needs to be something that's going to be provided for the neighborhood to be able to help. If the shelter does go through, it's not so much who is being in the shelters as to what's going to also help them along with just giving them some place to stay and sleep at night. That's my concern, because like I said, being right across, I'm going to get the brunt of everything. So that's a concern.
Yeah, because when we met with the people that were talking about 1400 Blondell, it sounded great. They had all these programs and, you know, all these activities. They were going to have a yard in the middle of the building, you know, an outside yard in the middle of the building for these men to, you know, to hang out in, so they wouldn't be out in you know, the street. It all sounds really, really good when you're listening to them talk about them. But, you know, we won't really know how it's going to work till they open it up. And then once they open it up and it's not as it seems, and these men are not getting the services that they need, it's too late to do anything about it. So, you know, so we can talk all night, but I really want to close out the meeting.
One thing is this. Hello?
I haven't been able to speak at all tonight. I just wanted to share something. May I?
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Franz. I also live in the Brady Court community. And I'm just wanted to share something that I believe one of my fellow neighbors, Dale, mentioned here. I've been in this community for many years, and one of the concerns is not necessarily that it's a men's shelter. The reason why we are speaking about it in this way is because this is the issue at hand, right? If it were a family shelter, we would probably have oppositions for different reasons. But the reason that there is an opposition here is because it's of the location. It is close to our schools, right? Like somebody mentioned here, it's close to the park, which has already been ransacked by a lot of young people smoking, doing drugs in the bathrooms. And the last thing we need are unstable. And listen, I have family members that have been in the shelter system. They will tell you straight up it's a very dangerous place. And a lot of these young men really are mentally unstable. They have mental health issues. And they cannot guarantee us that the people that are coming in are going to be 100% safe or healthy. And so there are potential threats that, as someone said, cannot be rectified after they're already here. So once you establish that and they're in here, there's nothing you can do about it, and it really hurts the community. Property values go down. A lot of other things, in addition to the health of and the safety of our young people. It's not that they're black and Hispanic, because again, there's an assumption that they're only going to be black and Hispanics. We don't know what kind of people are coming in here. The issue is this the right location for it? And if not, then let's propose a better location or a different type of shelter. And this is really where we need to go to. We're not discriminating against men and people of color. This is not the issue. We don't even know who these individuals are. But we are concerned about their mental health. We are concerned about the potential of bringing in of drugs or violence or a lot of other things. And again, there could be sexual predators. We have no idea. But does it have to be that location? Maybe not. So we need to consider that, and we need to just go armed with some ideas, not just complaining, but with also some solutions. And I think that maybe we need to think about a different location, a little bit away from this area that's close to 2 schools, 1 park, several churches. I mean, come on, there's a lot of things going on that we really need to consider. And that's all I wanted to share with you.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, so I'm gonna close the meeting now.
Hazel,
I'm
Hazel, can
sorry,
I just
Hazel.
say
What
one
was his
thing?
name? The person that just spoke. He sounds like he can be a person to speak up for all of us at the meeting.
My name is Franz. I'm a pastor also in the community as well.
Hazel, if I can just
Thank
say,
you.
the Westchester Avenue shelter that is across the street from Karina's Reyes'
What's going on?
office is within 2 blocks of a school, across the street from a pre-K unit and a public
meeting.
library. Okay, during the public hearing that was held by DHS and the elected officials, it was said that level 1 and level 2 sex offenders are allowed in these homeless shelters. However, I will tell you that I have seen family shelters that are bad. On White Plains Road, I can give you one when I was with Councilman Andy King. We were outside a homeless shelter, a family homeless shelter, which was a bad shelter. All right. And so it makes no matter. And going to what you said, and by the way, one of my outlets is Muslim Media. And we are right now in the process of trying to find shelter for the 90 families that are homeless out of the building that was on fire. So I hope I'm not, I mean, my heart is a little bit down from that. So I hope well, I'm going to end it right there. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Robert. So
Maybe for Friday.
we've said a lot, and everybody. I'm so happy that everybody opens up, and I'm so happy that you guys came to the meeting and let me know exactly how you feel. So I will, once I find out exactly how the meeting is going to take place and where it's going to take place, I will just post it all over the place. So just be on the lookout. Like I said, we should know by next week whether we still have to continue with our virtual meetings. And also DHS is under that same rule. So, we're just waiting to see what's going to happen. I will let everybody up know, and hopefully I will see everybody here on February 3rd, regardless of where we are.
Okay.
Thank you, Hazel. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, Hazel.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.